Yo, what's going on guys, Arekkz here, welcome back to another Monster Hunter World video, and today I wanted to put together another news roundup to go over some of the most recent information that surfaced online from various outlets, streams and interviews. We've got news on another beta coming very soon, a look at another really cool collaboration armor set, some information on the post-launch DLC plans from a PSX interview, and a lot more stuff too. In addition to that, there was a new issue of Famitsu, and while most of the information they covered wasn't exactly new, it did give us a better look at some of the characters for those of you that are keen to know a bit more about the story. And then finally, I want to quickly touch on one extra thing from the most recent trailer that I didn't get to mention in my original breakdown. So if you do enjoy this, then a like would be super appreciated, and be sure to comment down below and let me know what you guys think. Now, first things first, let's start with the beta news. Hot off the press, announced today, there is going to be another beta next week. Starting on December 22nd, running until December 26th on the times you see on screen, so a little bit longer this time. The second beta will be available on PS4, this time whether you have PlayStation Plus or not. Unfortunately, this is once again exclusive to PS4 players at the moment, still no Xbox or PC beta, but this time you do not need PlayStation Plus. So I imagine the reason behind this is to get more players in so they can further test the servers. In terms of content, it will be identical to the last beta. Great Jagras in the Ancient Forest, Baroth in the Worldspire Waste, and Anjanath in the Ancient Forest, so nothing new, but it is still a chance to play more of the game. And for those of you that want to preload it, then next week, December 18th, is when the preload will be possible, giving you plenty of time to get it downloaded before the beta weekend. So, with that out of the way, let's now turn our attention to the other news that surfaced this past week. Let's start with that collaboration armor set. This, my friends, is the USJ, or Universal Studios Japan collaboration armor set. Now, for those of you that have been playing Monster Hunter for a while, you should be familiar with the USJ collaborations, but for those of you that are new to the series, then to coincide with the Monster Hunter attraction they have at the USJ park in Japan, an attraction called Monster Hunter The Real, where they have armor sets on display, life-size monster statues and more, they also have a special quest you can get, but you typically have to obtain it by visiting the park. In this instance, there's an armor set for both male and female hunters, a longsword to craft, and a complete set for your PALICO too. And I've got to say, it looks absolutely incredible. The USJ sets normally look pretty sweet, but this has to be one of my favourites. From what I can gather, attempting to translate the Japanese website upon visiting the park between January the 19th, which is a little bit before launch, and April the 26th, you'll be able to get a special code, which you can then redeem on your PS4, and it will give you access to a special quest. Again, for those of you new to the series, these armor sets still need to be farmed. Typically, collaboration sets have a unique quest. You go on that quest, farm the monsters as you normally would do for any other armor set, but only this time around you get special items, and those items are used to craft this armor set back at the smithy. The cool thing about that, however, is that it then makes it possible for more people to get involved. See, let's say for example, that I have the code for this quest, and I then post that quest up on the quest board. One of you could then join me, go on that quest, farm the materials you need, and go back to base and craft this armor set without having redeemed that code yourself. So what I'm going to try and do in the new year is see if I can snag myself one of these codes so that I can host some live streams, and I'll basically give you guys a chance to jump in, farm the set, so that hopefully more of you guys can get this. But at the same time, you could also probably just go online and search for it. People could put the quests up, so there'll be opportunities to get it, even if you don't get to visit the park in Japan. From what I can see on the website, the quest itself seems pretty hilarious too. It's an arena quest called USJ Let's Go Golden Stars, and it will have you hunt 3 Great Jagras, based on the picture we see here. But if you look at it, you can see that one of them is a tiny Great Jagras, one of them is normal sized, and one of them is huge. So that should be a pretty funny quest. Again, for those of you guys that are new to the series, this is often something you get to experience in event quests. Sometimes you fight like massive versions of monsters, sometimes you fight tiny versions of monsters. They're just really sort of like fun things to get involved in, so definitely things to look forward to. Once I get more information on whether or not this will be available outside of Japan by more conventional means, i.e. just you guys getting codes, I'll be sure to let you guys know. But for the time being, the other thing worth mentioning, it seems also if you do redeem the code, you net yourself a special background for your guild card, which is pretty sweet. And we'll speak more about guild cards in a moment, since that's something we haven't seen up until now. Next up, let's talk about that PSX interview. I've linked the original video down below in the event you guys want to watch the whole thing. It's about 15 minutes long and covers some more broad design topics, but what I specifically want to focus on is the post-launch DLC plans. Now, if you're a fan of the series, you'll be familiar with this already, but again, for those of you that are new, then the series has a history of providing players with regular, free DLC content post-launch to keep players engaged for a good long time. This is something that is important to stress, especially in this day and age where we're often expected to pay for most DLC stuff. An example of that being Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, that had a solid 12-month DLC plan post-launch where every month there were new quests added, collaboration armor sets, and just in general more stuff for us to do. And while these monthly DLCs weren't exactly huge, they were still a welcome addition to the game that gave players a reason to check back each month. Plus, being a handheld game, they were a little bit more limited to exactly what they could and could not do. Whereas now that Monster Hunter is returning to home consoles, there is scope to expand this even further. If you saw my interview from both Gamescom and my recent trip to Japan, then you'll know they already mentioned the idea of running time-limited event quests, a chance for players to get together and earn something cool during a limited time window. However, that is just one idea. What's more interesting, and something I know a lot of you guys will be excited about, since I definitely am too, but they confirmed that they will also be adding more monsters to the game post-launch in free DLC updates. To quote Ryozo from the Famitsu interview, he said, "We're thinking about free updates for Monster Hunter World after its release. To be more specific, we plan on adding new monsters and such to get players to play for as long as possible. As for what kind of monsters will be added, we'll share more information on that later, so please look forward to it." Now at this stage, there is obviously no information as to what monsters and when, or even what cadence the DLC will release. They said they'll communicate that a little closer to launch, but regardless, this is incredibly exciting. Everyone has their favourite monsters. I've seen countless people saying things like, "I really hope Zenoga or Devil Joe make a return." I for one am a huge fan of Tigrex, Lagiacrus or Glavenus, and while we still have yet to see all the monsters that are going to be in the base game, it's still cool to think that even if that monster you're hoping for doesn't make it at launch, there is a very good chance it could possibly form part of the free DLC. Imagine if every couple of months they dropped a new monster pack where it introduced a handful of new monsters for us to fight, which in turn would give us new armor and weapons to forge. That would be awesome. I guess you could kind of liken it to the model they're using for Street Fighter V at the moment with the seasons and new characters. But either way, that is something to look forward to. So not only will you have a ton of stuff to do on January 26th and beyond, but when you eventually beat the game and craft all the items you want, you'll have more to look forward to throughout the year. It is, however, worth calling out that in a Famitsu interview, they did confirm that the game will feature some paid cosmetic DLC. One such example they gave was the Handler, the lady that you go to in order to get your quests. They might sell a different skin for her, so you can basically change her appearance. Again, for those of you that have played the series before, this could maybe, bear in mind this isn't confirmed, I'm just speculating, but maybe open up the potential for a Guild Mom costume, which could be really cool. And I am personally completely fine with this. I've always been very clear that my stance on microtransactions is that provided they are cosmetic and they don't affect gameplay, I generally speaking don't mind them, provided they're of course not in shady loot boxes. And since the developers have already confirmed that they will be giving us a ton of free DLC that'll add monsters, quests, armor sets and more, then if they want to sell a few cosmetic items on the side, that's completely fine. I'm willing to bet that we might also see those armor skins, or layered armor, as they're calling it. An example of that being in the deluxe edition, this samurai armor. This is not an actual armor set, it is essentially a skin that goes over whatever you have equipped to change your appearance. It's not transmog, it's a skin or a layer. They said that there are more of these you can earn in game, but I'd imagine this is the sort of thing that would also work well in their cosmetic DLC model. But, to be very clear, they said anything they sell will only be cosmetic. They have no plans to sell any sort of power related gear. Nothing that will give players advantages, and they already confirmed in a previous interview that Monster Hunter will not have loot boxes. So that means if there's an item you like from the cosmetic store, you'll just be able to buy it, which is cool. But again, the main take home from this is that if that stuff doesn't interest you, it's not going to impact your experience because the meaty stuff, the stuff you care about, is going to be free. More monsters, more quests, more gear, all free. Now, turning our attention to the most recent Famitsu coverage, I'm not going to go over most of this since largely it is stuff I've covered before. They spoke about the new bounty system with the optional quests and investigations. That's something I covered a while back with actual gameplay, so if you want to know more about that, I'll link my video down below. But on top of that, the article went over some of the main characters you'll encounter during the story. GAIJINHUNTER put together a video going over all that information, so if you guys want to know more, I'll also link his video down below. The one thing I do want to call out though is this. This is our first look, or at least before you saw the USJ stuff, this is our first look at guild cards. Again, for those of you new to the series, guild cards are essentially a means to track your game progress. They can be traded with other players and they show how many quests you've completed with each type of weapon. They track the large and small monsters you've hunted, you can personalize them, pick poses, backgrounds, a lot. There's a fair bit of information on them and they're just kind of cool to share. You basically collect guild cards from your friends and you can see everyone's progress. There is a lot more to them, and of course we'll find out more about that in time, but for the time being, that is a quick look at guild cards. So, finally, the last thing I want to touch on, just very quickly, was this. This right here is the Rathalos Sword and Shield, but what we're seeing here is an upgraded version. When I uploaded a video a while back showing you guys a lot of the low rank weapons, some people said they weren't too happy with how they all seemed to build off of the iron and bone base. To which my response was that the weapons you were seeing were low rank, and that they would change shape and evolve as you upgrade them. However, since examples of this were limited, then there wasn't a great deal to go on. Well, seeing this right here, this is the iconic Rathalos Sword and Shield, and we've already seen a few additional examples in some other screenshots and the like. Plus, there were these two variations of the Jagras Sword and Shield, which I tweeted about a while ago. You can of course see the one on the left is the base version, the one on the right is it upgraded. It is safe to say that there is still a lot more we have yet to see, and the unique looking weapons that Monster Hunter is known for are still going to be present. You might just have to work a little bit harder to get to them, that's all. Finally, to round things out, last night a new Monster Hunter trailer dropped. This was only a short one and didn't really show anything new. It was just a trailer for the Palicos. It shows them using some of their abilities, interacting with the wild Grimmelkind, and wearing a few different armor sets. I'll link that down below if you guys want to check it out, but that is pretty much it for the time being. That is a roundup of the most recent news that you might have missed over the past week following the beta. And of course, on the topic of the beta, next week you better dive in once again and get some more game time. So if there was something you didn't do last time, maybe you didn't quite slay that Diablos, or maybe you didn't take down all 3 monsters in the time limit, or maybe you just didn't test out one of the 14 weapons, you'll have the opportunity to do so. But until then, thanks for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.